Good morning, and we are live. I am super excited today. You ever had one of those things when you're reading about something or hearing about something or getting some tea, spilled to you or something, and you're like, "Ooh." Yeah, that's happened twice today. That's happened twice today. This is going to be good. You're going to like this. Let's dive right into it so we can start talking about it. We're going to be talking about something a little bit later on the show that's just a little bit complicated, and I am going to need you as a community to work with me to come up with a way that we can get this to filter down to the stupids. Yeah. We're going to be working together on a project during this show. It is incredibly it's just your jaw's going to drop. You are. We're going to connect a bunch of dots today. We're going to talk about Trump's personal finances, how it's interfering with the Iran negotiations. But there are different things happening that are it's going to be very, very eye opening. And this is something we definitely have to get down to the level of the stupids. And I don't know how to do it, because if you're here watching this show, you're obviously you're not one of those people that are clueless about politics. You're informed. You know what's going on. You know who you are. The community we built is intelligent, effective people, and we know that not everybody is that way. And then we also know that moving forward, especially for elections, we have to be messaging on the level that the bros that just show up that don't really know shit about shit, but love to, parrot talking points and stuff like that. This has got to be able to sink into their dense cranium. It's got to be able to soak through their backwards turned baseball cap. It's got to be able to penetrate those Oakley shades that they wear. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to need your help doing it. So I'll lay it all out for you. Then we'll talk about it at the end. But before we do, me, I like to set the tone for things. I like to give you a little taste in your mouth before the show starts. And I also want to lift your spirits just a little bit because there's a lot to take in here and I need you in a good way. So let's just talk about what happened yesterday in Virginia. This is how it started. Trump running his mouth, telling Texas, you need to redraw them maps. We deserve 5 more. So you remember him saying that? We deserve 5 more seats. Well, California told him, hey, hold my beer. And then yesterday, Virginia, and notice the difference in the way we do this. Texas just said, screw the people of Texas. Screw everybody that's not a Republican in the state of Texas. We're just going to redraw them maps for us. In California, in Virginia, they take it to the people. Well, the people have spoken. The people of Virginia said, yeah, redraw them maps. Get it done. Get it done. Get it done. Had kudos to Abigail Spanberger for her leadership in Virginia. She is absolutely celebrating today, and she should be. She should be. I will tell you, I was a little troubled. I was going through the numbers. If you'd like me to, I'll pull the maps up. But it's a little bit side to what we were going to talk about today. But if you want it, I'll do it. But I was looking at the 2024 presidential election maps versus the way the voting came in on this referendum to redraw the maps. And I'm just going to say this, and I'm getting pushback from people that don't really follow these things very closely. Um, these numbers are wrong. There's something that happened yesterday. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it. I am not the person within the Democratic Party with the know-how and the wherewithal to dig into these voting returns, but they're wrong. They cheated yesterday. They really tried to cheat yesterday. And I can tell you just from looking at the numbers, we've watched election after election after election over the last year in this political environment. You have seen the shift. I've shown you in election after election after even elections that Republicans won, there has been a shift to the left, 6 to 10 points in even red districts. In blue districts, that shift was to the left 10 to 15 points. We know where the enthusiasm is. We know what the turnouts look like. The turnouts in this election in Virginia look like the 2024 presidential election and worse. This referendum barely passed. And there's something very, very wrong with that. When you go county to county to county and you start looking at these numbers, not only did they not shift to the left like we've seen trending in red districts, they shifted to the right 4 or 5 points. So we're talking about what you would expect to see in these results, being here. What the actual results aren't just a 4 or 5 point shift to the right. They're off by 10 to 15 points from what we're seeing in all these previous elections. I will die on this hill. Something hinky happened last night with that election. We won it. Yes, I'm very happy we won it. But I am not going to let go that something went wrong. I'm telling you, Palantir and Peter Thiel and the billionaire oligarchs poured millions into this election, and something was wrong. Just I want you to be happy. I want you to be excited. This does prove what I've been saying all along, that yes, they're going to cheat, but if you do your damn job and you show up and you do the work, we're going to win anyways. We're going to win anyways. But yes, I am 100% there. You will not be able to convince me that something hinky didn't happen last night. But moving on to the next thing. This is something else. It's totally unrelated to what we're going to talk about. But again, it's one of those things that I just want cooking in the back of your mind as we talk about this. Have y'all have seen these before, these Mylar blankets? Y'all have seen these before, these emergency blankets, the plastic blankets, y'all have seen. They're real cheap. Hikers carry them. Firemen carry them. They're emergency blankets, and they do a good job. They work by reflecting heat, your own body heat back at you. Because they do an amazing job of that, they also, the preppers have fallen in love. The anti-government conspiracy people have fallen in love with Mylar blankets. They're folks, you're not going to believe this. There's really expensive camouflage clothing that you can buy that is Mylar lined. Really, no shit. And they're lining like they're out in the woods cabins. They're lining the interior walls with Mylar. because it works. It really works. When you look at when you look at someone, especially from a distance, when you look at someone and their heat signature through thermal glasses, through something that you'll see that, that the military has. Yeah, people show up very clearly, very clear. Our heat signatures show up uh, very clearly. Wrapped up in a Mylar blanket, it does not. You literally disappear to in a thermal in thermal imaging. You will literally just disappear. They work. They really, really freaking work. This, what I'm about to tell you about, um, is going to rock the preppers, the conspiracy nutters, the anti-government people that are spending fortunes on their bunkers and things like that to be able to hide from the government. And it's also, when I tell people don't be violent, you can't fight the government, you have no clue. When I tell our European audience and our global audience, when I make the statement that yes, the United States military, you have no idea what we're capable of, and that we're the only country on earth that if we ever got into a kicking ass contest with the entire globe, we would stand a chance. And people think, oh, that's hyperbolic and this, that, and that. Really? Okay, let me give you a little taste, just a little taste of what we're capable of. This came out, we found that pilot, right? The down pilot in Iran. And people are like, how the hell did you find that person? You're behind enemy lines. You're able to just zero in on this person, right? How did you find them? And everybody was like, oh, well, he had his transceiver and this. No, that was off. That was off because the Iranians have the technology. They could have zeroed in on them just as much as we could have. So it's leaking how we found this guy. Oh man, I hope your coffee's as good as my hell. I hope it's better. I hope it's banging today. This is gonna blow your freaking mind. This is gonna absolutely blow your freaking mind. Top secret project called Ghost Murmur, the heartbeat tracking tech that has experts questioning the laws of physics. They're not questioning the laws of physics. I don't like that headline. They're absolutely embracing the laws of physics. Get this. This is going to blow your damn mind. Your heartbeat is electrically moderated. It's electrical impulses that causes the muscles to contract. Your heart creates a very, very faint magnetic signature. It does. It creates a magnetic field. Now, I want you to put a pin in that. That's something that you accept, right? You understand that your heartbeat is electrically controlled. That's how pacemakers work. That when you go into AFib and they hit you with a defibrillator and they shock you, it's to reset that electrical rhythm and all that good. Well, that creates a magnetic field. None of that is in question, right? Right. Well, on the quantum level, yes, we're talking quantum physics here. On the quantum level, that magnetic field interacts with quantum particles. Put a pin in that and hold on. Because I don't want you to question this. I don't want you to doubt it. This is real. your television signature. You remember the old days when we had to like put hangers on our antennas and, people would wrap tinfoil around them, and then they just got much better, right? When we say they were getting much better, what do we mean? It means that we created smart antennas. We taught antennas to ignore extraneous signals and look for patterns and to focus on those patterns so that they could clear up your reception. And that works to this day in any kind of broadcasting signal. That's how it works. It just ignores everything else and focuses on certain wavelengths, certain patterns. Okay? You accept that, right? That's just normal. That's old school technology, right? The satellite transmits it ignores all the solar radiation, ignores all the Earth's own signals that the Earth it transmits on its own. It ignores all that and it looks for a specific pattern so that we get clear transmissions. I mean, that's normal, right? You get that. You understand that. That's old technology. Nobody doubts it, right? This is a roundtable show, folks. I'm not seeing the responses in the chat. You folks get that, right? That's old technology. That's like last century technology, zooming in on specific patterns to improve communication, right? We're doing it on the quantum level now. This is where it gets really freaking cool. We're doing it on the quantum level now. Your heart generates a magnetic field. As it beats, there is a pattern. We have taught a computer to pay attention to that pattern, and we can fucking find you anywhere because there's nothing in this universe that you can shield yourself in. You can be in a lead fucking box. It does not matter because your heartbeat will generate a specific rhythm and interfere and interact on a quantum level with every atom in this fucking universe. And we can spot that pattern. And we can find you no matter where you are, no matter what bunker you're in, no matter, it does not matter. That's what Ghost Murmur is. That's the level of technology our military is working on. You've got some people working on GPS coordinates, this, that, and the other. We're creating weapon systems to identify fucking heartbeats. Now, wait until you figure out that if they're already doing that, they're already mapping individuals' heartbeats and they can track individuals now. Yeah, that's where we're at. That's where we're at, folks. I mean, it's the reason I want you to have that in mind and just absolutely blow your mind and the military capabilities that we have is we're about to talk about some shit that is very, very base. Some really basic human shit. And you're going to see just how dangerous it is and how important it is that we right our ship, that we put the right people in charge. Okay, folks, you're getting the idea. You're getting the idea. So this happened. Let's talk about Iran for a minute, and because that's the big story of the day. We'll continue to talk about Iran. This happened. We're going to put some dots together, folks. And at the end, we're going to pull it all together. And then I'm going to need you to help me figure out how to message this out, because this is so damn critical going forward to the entire world. Okay. This just happened. This is breaking news. This headline's in need of an update. Iran captures 2 vessels in the Strait of Hormuz after ship comes under fire. This is actually, as of this morning, very different trend, folks. I've been telling you over and over again how U.S. domestic news isn't covering this shit. Yeah, they're on this. They're on this. Yeah, Iran attacked a vessel. This is the I'm gonna slaughter this. It's Epaminondas. The Epaminondas. This is the Epaminondas. You remember that Iranian Navy that we destroyed that doesn't exist anymore and does? Yeah, well, apparently still does, because they fired on the bridge of this ship and forced it to. Well, they just took it. They boarded it and took it. It is now. They've 3 vessels actually. Now they've taken the Epaminondas. They made an example of it. They opened fire on it and took it and sailed it back to Iran in the Strait of Hormuz, and it is now anchored in the port in the Strait of Hormuz in Iran. And they're saying this is ours now. And that has everything to do in retaliation with we seized 3 days ago, we seized an Iranian oil tanker. You know how Trump likes to take oil tankers. Our Navy seized an Iranian oil tanker. So they took the Epaminondas, they took the MSC Francesca. The Francesca they took without firing a shot, because, well, everybody paid attention to what they did to the Epaminondas. So yeah, they took the Francesca, and 1 second. There you go. They took the Euphoria. This one's going to hurt. The Euphoria is going to hurt. I know it's not as large as the other 2 vessels, and you would think, okay, the other 2 vessels are a big deal. The other 2 vessels are owned by international shipping companies that are they're going to negotiate. They're going to pay a ransom. They're going to get their ships back. That's the way it's going to play out. The Francesca and the Epaminondas, they're going to get those back. They are. The Euphoria, that's a big deal. You'll notice it was a very specialized ship. It has its own cranes on it. This is the kind of container vessel you need when you're going to service, I don't know, oil infrastructure. When you need to get into ports that aren't large container ports, that are, say, I don't know, petroleum terminals, where you're going to need to drop containers on the dock yourself, where you don't have the big, massive overhead cranes to do it for you. Yeah, the Euphoria is going to be kind of they're going to be, I guarantee you, they're going to be more concerned with getting the Euphoria back than they are the other 2. I mean, the other two will come back, but yeah, this is a big deal. So yeah, this is the kind of thing that the stupids, they're not really getting all this information. All they get is a headline says tit for tat. We took an Iranian ship, the Iranians took three. And that's the latest thing. You know, the Iranians are telling the captains of these ships that, yeah, go ahead and go on through the strait. You got our permission. And as soon as they enter the strait, here comes the Iranian Navy and takes the ship. And the captains are radioing, hey, you said I could go. And they're like, yeah, this is mine now. You know, that's the way this is happening. Now, I want you to put a pin in that. That's just one of the dots that we're going to have to talk about. I want you to put a pin in that, right? That is happening in the backdrop of there's having peace talks in Pakistan. And the reason I say peace talks is both sides have said there's no point to it. The other side has no clue what they're doing. No one knows. You know, the Iranians are saying the U.S. isn't actually negotiating in good faith. They've bombed us twice before in the middle of these negotiations. They're not bringing anything to the table that's actually anything we can do. And the Americans are saying the Iranians. They're saying that the Iranian government isn't consolidated under the leadership of Ayatollah Moshtaba Khomeini, and that there are rogue actors, is what they're basically saying. That it doesn't matter whatever they negotiate at these meetings. These diplomats that the Iranians have sent don't have the authority to actually speak for the Iranian government, because if they come to an agreement, it still has to go to Iran, and either the Ayatollah may not accept it or the IRGC may not accept it. So it's pointless. This is what both sides are saying, folks, when there's supposed to be a peace talk. Put a pin in that. All right. We've got the tit for tat, the things that are going on in the Gulf. Then over here we have both sides are saying that these talks are freaking pointless. It gets more complicated. It gets more complicated in ways that you probably didn't see coming. This happened. You may remember we've talked about Justin Sun before, when we were talking about Trump's corruption, specifically World Liberty Financial. Justin Sun here, who has gotten all kinds of favors from the Trump administration, put millions upon millions upon millions of dollars into World Liberty Financial. Well, he is now very upset. He is actually suing World Liberty Financial, claiming that even though he has a significant stake in the company, they're just ignoring him. They're not living up to what's the word I'm looking for? Fiduciary norms, in which, hey, I own a stake in this. I get a say in what's going. No, they're just freezing him out completely. They're not listening to him. They're not informing him. They're not telling him what's going on. They're just pretending as though his investment doesn't mean anything. And he's had enough, and he's filed suit. And he's saying things publicly like, this is a scam. Yeah, this is something that's going to be blowing up huge in the news, folks. but it has a direct tie to what's going on in the Middle East. Again, you got to put a pin in it. We'll get there. What's going on inside World Liberty Financial? You remember when we've talked about it in the past, Trump was very vocal about what a financial genius he was. Buy my stable coin, buy my crypto. My company is the best company in the world. I founded, we Trumps founded World Liberty Financial. We're founding members, which makes this really freaking weird because very quietly, World Liberty Financial has removed all references to the Trump family. Whereas they used to be listed, when you go to a website and you say our founders or, this, that, and the other, and they had all their pictures. Even Barron was pictured. It's all gone. Everything Trump has been expunged from World Liberty Financial. Now, this is where you are again going to be separated from the stupids. Because the way this is going to portray, I've been on social media long enough to know how these things come out. As this becomes a breaking news for everybody else in a week or 2 weeks, they're going to focus on, it's another Trump scam. It's another Trump grift. It's another, pump and dump. And that's it. That's it. That's all they're going to talk about. That is not it. That is nowhere near it. That is not one iota of how troubling this story is. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's take a look at World Liberty Financial's investments. Yes, 100%. It is started out at 45, almost 46 cents. Today, your investment is worth 7 cents, almost 8 cents. We'll say 8 cents. That's what, 17%, 18%. Somebody do the math for me. 17 cents on the dollar is what your investment is now worth. If you bought in when Trump was making all the noise, when Trump was screaming about his genius in crypto and how this was going to be the fusion of crypto and banking and all the stuff that they said, you bought in it, dropped your cash in at almost 46 cents to the, it's now worth 8 cents. And that will be what everybody's focused on. They'll be, they lost money, and yeah, they'll get the schadenfreude out of it and all that other stuff. I need you to see beyond just that and look at the complications. Because you remember we talked about this. We talked about the spy sheikh. We talked about Sheikh Tanoon bin Zayed Al Nahyan. In a previous show, we talked about how this happened. High-end military-grade AI has been made available to the spy sheikh. And in a previous show, we talked about how, it's not just the plane, but it's personal investment in Trump, because Justin's son may be 45 million deep into World Liberty Financial. Sheikh Tanoon is 500 million deep into World Liberty Financial. The United Arab Emirates has invested hundreds of millions of dollars into Trump's personal finances. And that is why the Trumps are suddenly being scrubbed from World Liberty Financial. It broke when we were talking about, okay, they're getting chip technology. It's more than that, because this is happening. This is happening. U.S. about a wartime financial lifeline. One of the things I have tried to do is explain the significance of what's going on in Iran. And I've tried to explain to people, and it's difficult. It is difficult getting this message out. People are very much enjoying the Schadenfreude. They're very much enjoying the Lego commercials. They're very much enjoying. People want gunboat diplomacy to die. They want soft diplomacy. And they see what's going on with Iran, and they're saying, yeah, this is a good thing. This is a good thing. Benjamin Netanyahu is responsible for this. He started this. We're doing this for Israel. They talked Trump into it. Trump is an idiot. Trump created this mess. They attacked Iran for no reason. And everybody is watching this, and they're seeing the collapse of it, and they're enjoying the Schadenfreude. They're enjoying Iran teaching Trump a lesson. They are. But the stupids have a very, very, very troubling misconception here. So I want to be clear. I want to go back to, Operation Ghost Murmur. Iran is not the power player at this table. They are not. They are not. What we're seeing is Iran masterfully handle the messaging and the diplomacy in this situation. But this situation is on a clock. This is not Afghanistan. This is not even Iraq. In Iraq, we were restoring the flow of oil. This is just the opposite. 1/5 of the world's energy is bottled up in the Persian Gulf, and it is not getting out. This conflict is on a timer. And that was what you'll remember. If you're a longtime member of the show, you'll remember that was what I was telling people. Oh no, there's going to be peace. There's going to be peace, one way or the other. This is going to end soon. This isn't going to be a long, protracted. But people are like, "Well, we're going to invade Iran," and I said, "No, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. This is absolute stupidity." And then we saw Trump move troops there, and I was like, "My God, they can't be this stupid." Because we're on a clock. And this is what I mean by we're on a clock. Okay? Stick with me. Not only is it affecting the global economy, not only are we looking at high gas prices, which are politically pressuring the Republicans here and putting political pressure on governments in Europe and driving a wedge between the U.S. and our former allies and all of that stuff. This is in addition to all of that. This is real nitty-gritty inside baseball stuff we're going to talk about here. By what I mean by we're on a clock. That this is not Afghanistan. This is not going to be a 20-year engagement. it's not going to be that long. Um, this is a major example of what I'm talking about. This is the United Arab Emirates dirham, their currency, the dirham. It is pegged to the US dollar. One second. Where are you? There you are. It's pegged to the US dollar. So when you look at the exchange rate, it is a straight line. The graph is a straight line. It is pegged to the United States dollar. And what that means is, how do you do that? How do you peg your currency to the United States dollar? How do you do that? The dirham is pegged to the United States dollar because the United Arab Emirates treasury is full of American dollars, or at least it was, or at least it was. You know, people were talking about the petrodollar, and I kept telling you, no, no, no. Don't stress about that. Everybody's giving you the wrong take on that. It is not, oh, they're going to move away from the petrodollar, and it's the dollar, as long as it remains stable, as long as we keep doing the things to do to keep the dollar stable. These currencies are pegged to the United States dollar. They maintain massive amounts of dollars in their treasury. This is not a thing. It is not a thing. And even if a situation occurs, which is happening right now as we speak, where they have to do business in other currency, it's still not going to have the effect that these people are telling you it is. Don't stress about that. Stress about this. This is what I'm trying to explain to you is happening. Now, the dirham may be pegged to the United States dollar, but that doesn't mean it's pegged to any other global currency. It's not. This is the dirham versus the yuan and its devaluation over the last year. You see, it has lost a tremendous amount of value. And the UAE is no different than the United States. They buy shit from China. They do. Here's where the crisis situation happens. This isn't hard, folks. This isn't complicated. What's happened since over the last month and a half since this war broke out for the United Arab Emirates? What's happened to a country whose sole, it's got two businesses, oil and tourism. And you know, tourism is nothing compared to oil. What's happened to the UAE? They aren't selling any oil. So there's no dollars coming in to that treasury. They're bleeding out the dollars that allow them to peg their currency to the United States. Old Mother Hubbard's cupboard is becoming really freaking bare. And because they're running out of dollars, and Trump politically, you remember what happened when he did this with Argentina, when he sent them $20 billion and then they turned around and undercut our own farmers, and the horrific news cycle for the Republicans that was? Well, that was a currency swap. That was a currency swap. We didn't just say, hey, here's a loan. No, we took their devaluing currency and we handed them our dollars. And we said, okay, we'll eat the depreciation. You have all these nice, pretty dollars you can take and you can buy stuff on the global community with, which are worth a hell of a lot more in the exchange than your currency is. So you can buy more stuff. So what did they do? They turned around and immediately they undercut our own farmers. So Trump is very, 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 very scared of another headline like that. But the UAE is signaling and has reached out. You just saw the headline I showed you. They need dollars. They have to have them, or they can no longer peg their currency to the American dollar. What they are signaling that they need to happen is they need to give us dirhams, which are devaluing, are worth nowhere near what we're claiming they're worth. As you see, as you saw, as I showed you, its value versus yuan. And we're going to give them billions upon billions of dollars to fill their treasury. That's going to happen. And here's the shitburger of it. You don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen. Trump is terrified of the fallout for when it does happen. They're scrubbing their name off World Liberty Financial so that the stupids won't get a tie between Trump and the United Arab Emirates, who are directly injecting money into his finances. When this swap happens, and it will happen, they're going to try to do it very quietly. This isn't going to be like the one with Argentina where they came out and you had press releases about it. No, it's just very quietly. We're going to start swapping dirham for dollars. And here's why. Right now, the US UAE is getting killed. Just like we buy a ton of goods from China, just like when we said, okay, they're tariffing goods coming from China, that's going to get really expensive from you. China is the factory for the world. The UAE gets cars and equipment and oil pumps and pipe and all kinds of things that they need, because you remember the UAE is not, they're a two-trick pony: oil and tourism. China is their factory. Their currency is devaluing and devaluing and devaluing and devaluing, and they're getting hosed. Their inflation is skyrocketing. And they're running out of US dollars, which means their currency is at some point going to have to be detached from the US dollar, in which would cause a huge crash. Now, in that situation, you would want a president that is looking out for the interests of the United States of America and the global economy, because we are all tied to the global economy, right? Yeah, that's not happening here. That's not happening here. Trump and the Trump family is tied directly to the UAE. They're getting hundreds of millions of dollars. That family is worth now creeping up on $8 billion, and they did not have the capital to invest to make that kind of money. That liquid capital came from the UAE and Saudi Arabia. and other places. We're going to talk about something else that's going on here. Well, let's just dig into it. Put a pin in all this and let's talk about this. This is why you have to elect Democrats. You can't let the purists cost us any seats. We have to have as many Democrats as possible after the midterms. Things like this. You remember the headlines of tech companies handing Trump millions upon millions upon millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars for his library. Well, Elizabeth Warren and the Democrats have been digging into that. They've been subpoenaing records from those tech companies, and nobody can find the money. Nobody can tell anybody with any certainty where any of that money has gone. It just vanished. It just vanished. From that article. Not one of these companies can say with any clarity where their multi-million-dollar donations to Donald Trump's library slush fund are or where they will go. Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, who's taken the lead in tracking this money, tells me in a statement. This is what the Democrats are doing. This is what they're doing. When you see the people on social media say stupid shit about Democrats, they're too stupid to follow this. They don't know. They're not going to be able to follow any of this. They're not you. They're not you. But you have to shut that bullshit down. The Democrats are out there working their ass off every single day, doing their job. You know, Elizabeth Warren, this doesn't just happen, folks. This is work. It takes work. They have to subpoena these documents. They have to analyze what information they get their hands on so that they can find out where to go look. It's an investigation. This is actually happening. And you get dumbasses on social media bitching because, well, they just didn't show up on my social media feed and make a good comment. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Elizabeth Warren was a little fucking busy. She was a little too busy to show up on your social media feed. But I tell them about it. But Hakeem Jeffries is the bullshit response I usually get. Folks, this is important. This is complex, important things that are happening. You know, you've got, let's start just putting these dots together. You've got Iran and the United States trading tit for tat, taking people's vessels, taking people's cargoes, billions of dollars in economic activity ceasing, just stopping. In just those, you know, we talked about, you know, the Francesca, the Epaminondas, and the Euphoria. Folks, that is more than $1 billion. That is more than $1 billion in economic activity right there alone. Just that one thing on that one day. That's why I'm saying, folks, big picture. I'm trying to give you an inside view of of where I'm coming from, when I say, oh, this is going to happen. And then you find out a week and a half later, 2 weeks later, it happens. There are pressures that are forcing things like this to be dealt with. This is on a clock. This is not Afghanistan. This is not Iraq. This is not Vietnam. All the things that the stupids try to compare this conflict to, and it does not apply. And it's not just an global economic slowdown. It's not just inflation that's happening. It's literally, you have one of the oil suppliers, major energy suppliers from the Gulf, that is running out of capital. What does that mean to the future when they have to repair their infrastructure from this war? This is what the power players that are at the table are looking at. And Iran has been, on one hand, incredibly brilliant in all of this. But they just made a very, very stupid move that I'm very afraid about. This makes me afraid. I've got a good hold on this. I keep telling you, the grown-ups in the room will handle it. What needs to happen is Trump needs to take the L, eat the shit burger, take our troops home, and let the grown-ups deal with it. But that's not what's happening, because Trump needs to save face. And, well, that calculus just changed. And it changed by something Iran did that was very, very stupid. They just made a demand. Actually, I should say changed a demand that moves the goalpost as to what is possible in the things that will happen in the future. Right now, we say, look, a ground invasion is not going to happen. You see, I just pointed out to you just one of the countries, the United Arab Emirates, why I say this is on the clock. This cannot continue more than a few more weeks, possibly a couple months, and that's it. It is over. You're talking about economic collapses happening on a global scale. These are dominoes that drag us all down, and everybody sees it. The big guys in the big banks, and they all have this information that I'm sharing with you. They all see this happening. So yes, this is on a clock. What Iran did, which I'm telling you changes the calculus and scares the shit out of me, is they made a demand that can't be met. Cannot be allowed to happen. Now, we saw them make the demand that that when they said, okay, the Strait of Hormuz is open. It's open to everyone. Anybody can go in and out of it, except ships from Israel and the United States. That in and of itself, everybody said, okay, that's a negotiating point. We get that. We understand. We just bombed them. Of course, that makes sense for them to say that. We will negotiate this out. And as a matter of reparations, they said, look, we're gonna start taxing these boats going through. And everybody said that sucks. They said $1 a barrel, and everybody in the oil industry said, that math don't math. Nope. We did the math on it. We showed you that's like 4 times their annual income from oil, just taxing ships coming out. So we said, look, that whole, $1 million a ship, $2 million a ship, that's going to change. That in negotiation, when the grown-ups in the room sit down, yes, Iran is going to get some reparations. Iran is going to get some money out of this. But no, it is not going to be with the stuff they're demanding now. And no, they're not going to be able to veto who comes in and out of the Persian Gulf and say, oh, this ship can and that ship can. Well, they doubled down on that, folks. They doubled down on it. And let me explain why this is a problem. Now, I went through all of this stuff to give you an idea, the sense of urgency, the time frame. We're on the clock. Iran has taken that demand that, okay, while negotiations are going on, no ships from U.S. or Israel, we have veto power. They have morphed that demand to say, in perpetuity, we withhold the right to decide if a ship can enter the Persian Gulf from any country on earth. We're now the deciders in perpetuity. Right now, we're just saying the U.S. and Israel and anybody we deem to be working with them. But from now on, we, the country of Iran, will decide and have veto power over what nations have access to the Persian Gulf. And that changes everything. That completely changes everything. Let's pause on that. I want to read some of your comments. Slap your mama. Please do the numbers. Yeah, we will. Metal Rabbit. Regarding AI, time for shoes and machines. Talking about sabotage. Do you know where the word sabotage comes from? The French word for boot is sabot or sabo, or I'm sure I'm pronouncing it, mispronouncing it. But where that comes from is French factory workers used to take their thick, heavy boots that they would wear to work in factories, and they would throw them into the machinery and break the machines. And hence the word sabotage was born. That's what he's talking about there. Time for shoes in the machine. Yeah. Glenn Kaneko, thank you for being so generous, Glenn. I appreciate you, but I do. I'm no angel. Thank you for supporting the show. I'm truly grateful. Cassie Lake, keeping democracy alive by keeping the coffee pot full. Thank you, Cassie. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Mike Daly the Dim, I believe everything you're saying, brother. Sorry for being Mr. Obvious, but this is why we need to elect fucking responsible, caring adults to head a government with that power. Yes, that's exactly where I'm going with, folks. That's why I framed it that way. That's exactly where I'm going. Skeet Sayre, a bit of levity. Onion Network is in the narrative, and my mirth was entire. Tagline read, Jesus under fire for comparing himself to Trump. Yeah, the Onion now has full control of InfoWars. That's gonna be fun. That's gonna be a lot of fun. Skeet Sayre. They also lost a jet fuel tanker off the coast of England. The crew were probably hungry. Buffoons are in control of the U.S. Army. Cape Maryland. I'm beginning to feel like a porcupine. Rich Lawton, thanks for being so generous, Rich. I appreciate you, buddy. There are memberships out there to be had. If you're watching this right now and you're not a member, you can get one for free. All you have to do is hit that join button. And as long as you've got the YouTube setting to allow you to receive gifts for free, you can get one for free. Paid for. All you got to do is take it. Hit that subscribe button while you're down there, by the way. Skeets here. We are growing incredibly fast. We need to keep that going into the election. We need as much momentum as possible so that we can keep people with clear heads, clear minds, and good information. Skeet Sayre, my mother, if something start crooked, it cannot end straight. If something starts crooked, it cannot end straight. I know what you meant there. If something, amen. Amen. I get what you're saying there. Chandra, good to see you, Chandra. Good to see you. Thank you for gifting the memberships. Very generous of you folks. Skeet Sayre, a $12 billion AI power facility in Texas, has not gotten any customers in 14 months. The CEO and CFO bailed yesterday. It is a scam. That is going to be a massive that is another bomb hanging over our heads. This whole the AI implosion is going to be devastating to our economic systems. Skeet Sayer, people are enjoying Iran because of Gaza. ET, just checking in. Busy day for me. People are enjoying this because they really are tired of gunboat diplomacy. They're tired of just insane psychopaths like Benjamin Netanyahu bombing their neighbors in war and people dying. People want people sitting at tables talking, negotiating. Yes, it's not pretty. Yes, it's not exciting. Yes, but people are tired of gunboat diplomacy. They want soft diplomacy. They do. ET, just checking in. Busy day for me. Got to go. It is less than 28 weeks until the general election. Verify your voter registration and deadline dates. Know your early voting dates. Get involved. Amen. Amen. Well said. Rena Scott, I think this is all related to why Trump wants control of the Federal Reserve. It is definitely corruption is definitely part of it. Absolutely. Crafty ass Gardner, thank you for being so generous. LJ Jones, thank you for gifting the memberships. Thank you. Pick those memberships up, people. Melissa Grubb, hit the thumbs up. Library, Silly Bebo. Skeets there. Offshore accounts, the Panama Papers still matter. Skeets there. Imagine where the U.S. would be if Warren was president and Porter vice president. Yes, we can do much better than the Republicans. Much better. Susan Garman, welcome. Glad to see the new members. Glad to see the new members. Spicy Jester, the corruption is off the charts. This whole scheme with the UAE to make him richer while giving our money to prop them up on a war Trump created. Vote Democrat or this country is finished. End of story. Skeets here. Too bad Carter is gone. Even the idiots understood he was the U.S. best diplomat. Lance Ledgerwood, thank you for gifting the memberships. Thank you. Sabo is a wooden shoe. It's also the French word for boot. Will you do any collabs with other creators? I do all the time. I do all the time. Will banks foreclose? Yeah, there's going to be a lot of foreclosures, and there'll be a lot of bank collapses too in the future. Amy, Texans, early voting in the municipal elections is happening now. Vote. Thank you, Amy. Weird Idaho liberal. Trump's brain is draining out of his skull and into his diaper. You crack me up, Dave. You really do. Mr. Wallace, hey, Paul, just some local Texas news to check out. MAGA has completely emboldened these idiots. Houston PD cop went on crazy racist rant about people of color. Sad. Yeah. Yeah. This they have been losing their damn minds. They thought this was all going to be okay, that all their racism could go on full display. Yeah. Wait till you see what happens over the next couple of years. The internet is forever. So, yeah, you see that Trump is compromised and his decision making is tied to the financial well being of people that are pumping money directly into his family. The decisions that are being made will not be based on what's best for the United States of America, what's best for the world in general. They will be made based on Trump's personal finances. That is a huge part of it. But back to what we were talking about with what was scaring me. There's only so much people are willing to accept now. Trump is being shut down. They started to move troops into the region. They started to move It looked like they were going to, escalate this. The generals shut him down on the expansion into attacking civilian infrastructure and war crimes. So far, those guardrails held. They did. But this decision by Iran to say, hey, we hold all the cards, they don't. They don't. Just because the pressure has been on the Trump administration now and up to date does not mean that calculus will always hold. Iran's demand that they forever and ever, amen, hold veto power over who can access 1/5 of the world's global energy supply will not happen. It will not happen. That directly puts Iran into everyone's negotiations going forward. Iraq wants to negotiate with the UK. Iran is now at that table. Neither Iraq or the UK would accept that. Kuwait wants to make a deal with China. Iran is now sitting at that table. And their interests and their demands are now at that table. China will not accept that. Kuwait will not accept that. You see where I'm going with this? Why this demand is a non starter. What this does is if this demand doesn't leave the table quickly, and let me explain how it could. All right. How it could. Iran could save face. They could. They could make a demand that could be handed to them because, yes, they're in a good bargaining position right now. Everybody wants this over now. Every power player, everybody with money, every Johnny Got Rocks out there wants this over now. So Iran is sitting in a pretty position. That's why they took those ships yesterday, was just to remind the world this can very much persist. We are holding cards. So they're going to be able to make demands like, hey, we want reparations. So every ship that comes through will now pay an Iran tax. They're going to get that. They're going to get that. And upon getting that, or at least what will they'll get in these negotiations is a promise to negotiate that fee, is what they'll get. A promise in the future to negotiate that fee for Iran to receive reparations because they were attacked by Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump. When they get that promise on the table, they could take that demand of veto power over who can enter the Gulf, and they could put it on the table and say, okay, we no longer want this. And they could save face. They could say, we're the big guys in the room. We're giving this up. But here's the problem. They're not doing that. They've miscalculated badly. They have looked at their successes, which they have had tremendous successes in this conflict. And they've looked at the pressure that the world has put on us. And by us, I mean Donald Trump, to limit what he can do. And they overreached. As the desperation sets in, as countries like the United Arab Emirates start needing those lifelines where we start funneling dollars into the UAE to keep their currency from collapsing. As Turkey, who is now, we talked about this in a previous show. Turkey's been selling their gold reserves to protect the lira, to protect their currency. As these countries start running out of runway, that goalpost of what is acceptable moves. You need to let that sink in. Right now, an invasion of Iran is unacceptable. If Iran keeps this demand on the table and a deal can't be made, because a deal can't be made with that demand on the table. You understand that demand burns the whole house down. No one can allow, as I explained, no one can allow that to happen. And Iran is serious about demanding that. They have miscalculated badly. As that persists and the desperation grows, the goalpost as to what is militarily acceptable moves, and it gets more brutal. Right now, Europe, you got the UK, Keir Starmer, Macron, everybody. You've got Georgia Meloni in Italy. I mean, Spain. Everybody is screaming for peace right now. Everybody is screaming, get to the table, soft diplomacy. Let's make this happen. In a month, we're having a very different conversation. In a month and a half, that conversation changes from screaming for peace to do what you got to do. Just do what you got to do. And that's really happening, folks. That's really happening. And right now, what we've got sitting at the table are Iranian diplomats that are saying nothing that we're being told is worth listening to because the US has no credibility and we don't believe a damn thing they're saying. And on the other side, you have US diplomats, well, not diplomats, it's a fucking Jared Kushner and JD Vance and these idiots that are saying nothing Iran says matters because their government, the factions within their government can't align and it won't happen. Even if they promise it, they can't deliver it. All while Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Iraq, we're talking Saudi Arabia, we're talking one fifth of our global energy. The countries that represent that are all watching their treasuries empty and their businesses evaporate and their obligations will soon not be met. And they're very quietly saying, we need to look forward and we need to decide what we're willing to support the United States of America and its military doing. Remember, we are the military that can track you by your heartbeat. When I When I posted about this on social media yesterday, I got so much pushback from people that were saying, "Oh, Iran is the dominant person in this. Iran is the big dog. Iran is holding all the cards." No, no, they aren't. They aren't. Militarily, this isn't even gonna be close. And Trump will be brutal. I promise you, a Trump invasion would be brutal. It would be. Yeah, the producer's making himself known, making herself known. And that has me scared. That really has me scared. I'm not sitting here just enjoying on social media the schadenfreude of, "Hey, another Lego video dropped." No, I'm watching Mohammed bin Salman, a guy that had a man strangled to death while a phone was held up to his ear so that he could hear it happening in real time, who has the ear of our president, is now making decisions about what they're going to do in the future about Iran. And Iran is very foolishly acting as though they have all the time in the world, that they don't need to make peace, that the longer this goes on, the better off they're going to be. Folks, that was a temporary thing. I want to stress to you again, this is not Afghanistan. Folks, we were in a kicking ass contest in Afghanistan for 2 decades, and it meant nothing to the global economy. Nothing. No one, for the lack of a better way to put it, no one cared. This is not that. This is 1/5 of the world's energy supply choked off. And people aren't playing. We're on a clock. We are on a clock. And people are starting to talk about it. Even here, people are starting to talk about it. This is from CNN yesterday. Why Trump's latest blink on Iran could be more than a Taco Tuesday. Everybody is starting to politically wrap their head around on the right that we're going to have to give up a lot to make this peace happen. Trump right now is promising things. He's writing checks with his mouth that his ass can't cash. He is promising MAGA shit that he cannot deliver. He's going to go against everything they ever screamed. Remember how they screamed about, you gave Iran billions of dollars, when what we really did was we freed up their own money that we had been holding as sanctions. They sued us in the world court. They were going to win. So we said, okay, yeah, take your own money. And Republicans screamed, you gave the Iranians billions of dollars. Well, they're going to get 100 times that now. And it's going to devastate MAGA. There's no way to message around this. This is why MAGA influencers are bailing right now on Donald Trump. Kitty trees for the producer. Okay, here we go. This is really happening, folks. This is really happening. And this goes one of two ways. And we're kind of at a moment of, we're at a fork in the road. Either Trump takes the L which it looks like the Republicans are preparing for. He takes the L. They give Iran tons and tons and tons of money and concessions and clout and trade agreements, things that are just going to make MAGA vomit all over themselves. Or we go to the right and you watch one of the most horrific wars you've ever seen in your lifetime. Because Iran is a country of damn near 100 million people. It's not Afghanistan. The war we fight there will resemble more the carnage of Dresden. In London during World War II, you'll see cities like Shiraz cease to exist. Tehran will look like Gaza. You could literally see 20 million people die. And the stupids are watching Lego videos and thinking, woo, Iran is winning. Yeah, they're listening to guys like Hassan Piker. And right now, the world is really starting to pay attention to this. How China is gaining from Iran war by showing it is different from the U.S. This is really dominating the global news. Because the people that are having to look at this and make these decisions and know that we are coming up to this fork in the road, the people that have brought us here aren't going to forget why they got forced into this situation. I'm telling you, Benjamin Netanyahu is done. And no, I'm not mispronouncing it. I call him Netanyahu because he's fucking insane. No one is ever going to forget this. This is a decision that no Western nation wanted to make. And you're seeing it with MAGA. Republicans are trying to figure out between the retirements and the MAGA influencers, and they are trying to figure out how to throw Trump under the bus. That's happening. That is happening. After the midterms, it's over. It's over. Right now, they're trying to figure out, MAGA world is trying to figure out, can they ride Trumpty Dumpty through the midterms and survive? Can they mitigate their losses using Trump? But once those midterms are over, they're done. Trump is done. They're going to throw him under the bus. And we're going to have to be the grown-ups in the room, man. Because I promise you, even on our side, you've got folks on the left that aren't dealing with reality. Now, I'm not saying they're as bad as what's going on the right. Boy, I tell you, the right is just absolutely delusional. But you've got folks on the left that will sit there and argue the day is long that Iran is powerful and Iran is holding all the cards and Iran is, and I assure you they are not. I had somebody tell me yesterday that Iran has brought us to our knees. No, we're looking at Iran like I look at a scorpion in my kitchen. If it comes to it, it's just grab a paper towel, grab the scorpion, and pop it. If that goalpost moves and the entire world says, okay, do what you've got to do, which is where we're headed. What happens to Iran? Yeah, they're not going to look really smart on the other side of it. They're not. Because I assure you, Trump has no decency, no morality, no anything. This deal has to happen, and it has to happen soon. Because the longer it goes on, the greater the likelihood that this devolves into carnage. Got one more thing for you. Going into the midterms, this is happening. This is happening. Um, Paxton's looked like a juggernaut here in Texas. He's been dominating, spending a fraction of the money. He's been dominating Cornyn. Yeah, that is, you're about to see a massive change in the race here in Texas. This is going to be huge. Even Cletus can understand this. Some documents have been leaked. They were under seal. Angela Paxton has been able to use her power to keep this under wraps. No one is able to hold this back anymore. What this is about is, and I'll give you the Cliffs Notes of it, because as this develops and more of this comes out, we're going to get some more details about it. There were two Paxton allies. A guy by the name of Charles Loper. He runs an insurance conglomeration, a privately owned insurance conglomeration out of Frisco, Texas. Frisco is a very rich suburb of Dallas. There was another friend of Ken Paxton, a guy by the name of Byron Cook. He's a Republican here in Texas. He actually is a Republican who's actually served as a congressman. He is now running an energy investment company called Unity Resources. They ended up suing each other, these two friends of Ken Paxton. And I say friends, I mean donors. Ended up suing each other, and Ken Paxton picked a side. See, Ken Paxton actually represented, as an attorney, he represented both of these folks. He had attorney-client privilege. Both of them had attorney-client privilege. But yeah, Paxton turned over documents to the attorney representing Loper on Unity Investments, which is a huge no-no. Everybody understands attorney-client privilege. Everybody understands, you can't do that. And he did. And he did. And this is actually going to be big because, like I said, this guy, Byron Cook, is a Republican. He's a Republican congressman. And he's accused of fraud. People are accusing Unity Investments of actually soaking up investors' money and using it for their own expenses. This is not only, Cletus can understand that. They put their hands in the cookie jar and they ate the cookies themselves. They screwed their investors. And then Ken Paxton who represented this fraudster, who was, his lawyer, turns over privileged material to the people that are suing him, another donor of his. So yeah, this is just now starting to break. Cornyn has been desperately wanting something like this because the impeachment, he moved his girlfriend to Austin so that he didn't have to drive to San Antonio to bang her. All of that stuff is nothing that they care about. This is nothing that MAGA cares about. They don't care. They have no morals. There is no moral spine to MAGA. So there's nothing shocking like that that can bother them. But what will bother them is when they're paying astronomical amounts of money at the pump and their grocery prices are through the roof, seeing this kind of corruption, this kind of largesse, this kind of people, Johnny Got Rocks is stealing, putting his hands in the cookie jar. Meanwhile, I can't afford cookies. And then Ken Paxton is protecting them, and Ken Paxton is double dealing. Ken Paxton is violating his oath as an attorney to put his thumb on the scale of a big donor. Yeah, that's something Cletus can wrap his head around. That is something Cletus can wrap his head around. Diane Bree-Garrett, hey, Paul, here with you as always. One thing I hope you touch on is the Kushner thing and him being the one being in the safe that Galbert covered up. How bad was that? What did he give up and to who? There's so much left to come out. If we can just do our job, if we can just get rid of the purity people, if we can just elect Democrats, there is so much to come out. Epstein is just a small portion of the corruption. When they start digging into world liberty, that is going to be massive. World liberty has ties that blow up all over MAGA. And that's before we even start looking at Palantir. That's before we start looking at J.D. Vance and his business ties that are tied into this web of corruption. McBass's busy helping local campaigns now, be skulking about even if you don't see me much. I'm glad you're here. Glad to see you getting involved. So, Metaficata, after today's discussion, I understand why the Trump regime has not commented on the lack of replenishment of supplies, food, and mail for our naval troops. Trump is running out of the clock. Yeah, all they did was scream fake news, fake news. It's not happening. Meanwhile, you have sailors that are sending pictures that are getting, their commanding officers are shitting downhill on top of them because they're sharing the conditions, what's going on. And the Trump regime is trying desperately to hide how shitty they've handled this entire situation and how much our troops that, we always love our troops. We do. We love our soldiers. And when they're not treated well, everybody gets that. Cletus understands that. Mandolia, yes, we need to get back to teaching civics. I only had one required half-hour class in junior high school just after lunch, taught by an excited little Irish guy we called the Leprechaun, who sadly just put us to sleep. Yep. You need to remember, folks, that the people out there, they don't get it. They don't understand. They don't. They're going to hear this story. And this is why I was saying, I need you to start thinking about how do we message this? Because again, it's going to be the whole world liberty financial thing is going to be, Trump's crypto grift. No, he is directly tied to the United Arab Emirates financially. And he's making financial decisions about these Iran negotiations and how long they the pressure isn't about what is the right thing to do. And no, Part of the calculus is, hey, these people, I'm into them for a $500 million. I got to look out for them. Yeah, let's go ahead and swap some currency. Their currency is collapsing. Let's go ahead and eat that. That's you and me eating it, by the way, the American taxpayer, to prop them up. Well, is that in the best interest of the United States? Is that in the best interest of the global economy? Some people would argue, yeah, you can't have these states collapsing because, again, 20% of the world energy supply, they've got to be able to maintain. Yeah, but okay, let's structure this out as loans. Let's structure this out so that it's not a freebie. But no, we've got Trump, the corrupt ass Trump, who has deep financial ties to these people making these decisions. And his decisions aren't based on what's good for the American people or the global economy. Dave Munn, thanks for supporting the show, man. I appreciate you. Glenna Marley, Indivisible has a great app, 5 calls, easy to contact your legislatures, auto dials the correct telephone number, and provides a script. Excellent. Yeah, Indivisible's doing great work. They really are. Indivisible is doing great work. Michael Antonsu, depression for the USA, recession, recession. I mean, we're already seeing the inflation. We're already seeing the economic slowdown. Christopher Daly, no ground invasion of Iran. That's where we are today. In a month, 6 weeks, that's going to be a very different conversation. Richie for Congress, Ohio. Ohio's 6th election will be decided May 5th, not November 3rd. Amen, brother. We got to get out and vote in those primaries. We do. And everybody, just do a Google search for elections coming up in your region. May is going to be a huge month here in Texas. Mighty cool. Removing Trump, if Iran tried this at any other time, there'd be a bombing campaign anyways. So I agree they've made a target of themselves. I'm telling you. And nobody wants to hear this because everybody's really enjoying the Lego videos and really enjoying the Schadenfreude that, hey, these psychopaths are getting theirs. And I get that, man. I understand it. I understand it. But I'm watching Iran go too far. I'm watching Iran make mistakes and seeing where this ends up. If this goes back to an ass kicking contest, it's going to be horrific. I mean, horrific. Wendy Bowman. Kitty treats for the producer. Yeah. She is something else. She's something else. She's my girl. That's the sweetie cat. Chandra Patton. Trump and his cabal are greedy and evil. But what's worse is their stupidity and greed that has opened the door to the real evil powers of the world. Amen, sister. Say it louder for the people in the back. Midas Pilot. Say thank you and make a deal with General Budinov. Kirilo Budinov. That guy. Whew. I would not want that man mad at me. Weird Idaho Liberal. We're all to hold the line against the night. Yes. Amen, brother. Mr. Knudsen. Tables can turn very quickly on Iran if they lose sympathy of the world. Say China and India finds it more profitable with a regime change. Very much so. Very much so. Spicy Jester. Wait, did you say a scorpion in your kitchen? This is why I can't live in Texas, and the whole pop sound you reference is nightmare fuel for me. Yeah, black widows, scorpions, that's just normal here. Really common to walk up to the sink and have brown recluses will get into the sink and they can't climb back out because the walls are too slick. So you'll go to make your morning coffee and you look down and there'll be a brown recluse running laps in your sink. That's when I get a call from Mrs. Texas Paul that I need to get my ass in the kitchen and do my job. Do your job. uh, Mandolia, it will be joy to the world the day we can all read Trump's obituary. I had the most anticipated obituary, I think, in human history. Gin up the base. Message is so simple. Vote every Republican out now. Absolutely, folks. So, yeah, I'm not being lazy. I'm being sincere. You are some of the smartest people I know. How do we message this? I mean, that was a lot of dots to put together. That won't fly on social media. These people have other concerns, other things going on in their lives. It's got to be short. But they've got to be made aware, because right now they're not. They aren't. Let me see if I can go back to some of the comments and so you can see. Okay, here we go. Go to the comment section. Now, this is the video where I started to explain this was a mistake on Iran's part. I posted a video that it's a 3-minute video where I was talking about exactly what we talked about, how their demand has morphed into veto for in perpetuity over who can access the Persian Gulf. And the responses I'm getting are things like, Iran has all the cards, Trump has none. Trump doesn't have the cards, Iran does, he won't do shit. Iran is under no obligation to remove this demand. Just one comment after another, where people are kind of deluding themselves. One person down here tells me we're on our knees. This person, I can't wait. This is a really common sentiment right here, is even the people that were accepting, okay, yes, Iran made this, but maybe it's just a negotiating point. No, that's the problem. That's what has me scared. This isn't just a negotiating point. They're deadly serious about this. This is what, not handing over their nuclear materials. That is a negotiating point. That is a negotiating point. That is something they don't want. Nobody wants a nuclear weapon anymore. Nobody. I mean, they're hyper expensive. They're useless weapons that you can't use. Nobody really wants a nuclear weapon. So handing over their uranium, yeah, that's a negotiating point. This demand to have veto over who can pass through the Strait of Hormuz and enter the Persian Gulf, no, they're dead serious about that. They are deadly serious about that. And I'm telling you, it is a huge mistake. It is a huge mistake. But the comments I'm getting where people are at is not in reality. I mean, they don't understand what happens when the fit hits the shan. They don't understand when economies start collapsing, that goalpost moves. What is acceptable today, right now, will be a very different conversation from what's acceptable a month and a half, 2 months from now. You'll see the B-52s in the air. When you see the B-52s in the air, that's just desolation is what's left. And believe me, we have not even begun to express we still have weapons. People are like, oh, we can't invade Iran. We can't do it. We can do it. We should not do it. It will be horrific. It will be a massive loss of life on both sides, but we absolutely can do it. I'm telling you, folks, there are weapon systems that we have not yet exposed, that we're not ready for the world to see. I mean, I need you to think about a missile that doesn't use GPS coordinates. It tracks your fucking heartbeat. Yeah, those are real things, folks. Oregon Wine Lady, one dot at a time, a series of videos, one point at a time, and link the next one, maybe. Yeah, that's what excellent idea. And that's kind of what I've been doing. I dropped that video yesterday. This is what I'm telling you, folks. I'm doing this full time. It's not just here, it's not just the show, it's not just the 6 hours I put in this morning in preparation for the show. And no, I'm doing videos every day. And the one I did yesterday, I dropped that video. And I will tell you, it really bothers me that people are in that position, that they really don't understand. They really think that we're defeated. They do. They think we're defeated. They don't realize that we haven't even started to fight yet. What Israel did to Iran, and those tactical attacks that we engaged in were just that, tactical. We haven't even begun a military campaign in Iran. And people think that we've lost. It's mind-blowing. Dragon Rider, welcome. Dying Brew Garage, Paul, I can assure you most of these normality people that voted for Trump cannot even begin to understand this type of information. All they know is war, gas, diesel prices, are scared shitless of war. They're the ones that responded screaming at me that I'm un-American because I dared suggest that Iran would get reparations. Why can't I just love America? That's where MAGA's at. They haven't even wrapped their head around the fact that the United States of America just attacked a country that was not threatening them, and that there will be consequences on the other end of that we will actually pay reparations in one form or the other. And I have to tell you, this whole taxing ships that go through the Strait of Hormuz, yeah, that's a great idea. That is a great way to structure those reparations, because it incentivizes Iran to have more ships go through the strait. If Iran makes a little bit of something on every ship that goes through, they are now incentivized to send. That's why it can't be enough, folks. And I hate to get sidetracked, but you know what? This is important. It can't be enough of a tax on each ship that Iran can afford to then say, well, we don't want some ships. It's got to be a small enough amount that they want as many ships as possible flowing through the strait. And I know our European audience, it's fundamentally unfair. You guys didn't do this. You didn't start this. You didn't participate in it. Why the fuck should this affect you financially? I get it. I get all of that. I do. But me just looking back objectively, yeah, that's a great idea. Iran gets its reparations by taxing a little bit on each vessel that passes, because that gives Iran a financial incentive to keep that frickin' strait open, to get as many ships through as possible. That's a good thing. That is a good thing. JD Straight Shot, my brother voted for Trump. I remind him every day. I hear you, brother. I do. I do. Folks, sometimes when I get to talking, I'll lose track and I may not tie the points. Did I get those points tied together? Trump's financial well-being is now directly influencing decisions that have to be made going forward. Did I get that done? I mean, is that clear? If somebody comes back, there's going to be 30, 35,000, maybe 40,000 people that watch this on replay. Are they going to get the full picture? Good. Because here's your job from here on out. It's always the same thing I always say about, okay, we've got to get these people, these short-sighted people, the don't vote for any Democrat that ever took APAC money people, and the people that are the single issue voters people. That's the standard. We've got to get Democrats elected, be pro-Democrat, positive Democrat messaging. You've got guys like James Tallarico coming out saying, hey, I got an idea. Shit's expensive, yo. Let's just eliminate, which, by the way, I actually disagree with James Tallarico, but that's for another show. Let's just eliminate the gas tax, the federal gas tax on everything, just to cut people a break. You know, you've got Democrats out there that are pushing, trying to do the right thing for people. They are. There's a reason I don't agree with that, but that has to do with the miserable shape our fiscal house is in, and yada yada yada. That's a whole nother show. That's a whole road I don't want to go down. But you know, hey, I like the sentiment. I like the direction they're going. It's your job now. We've got to figure out how to message this to the stupids, to the people that are screaming at me, nuh-uh, Iran holds all the cars. They own all them cars. And they don't realize that Iran is playing a game of poker, sitting on a keg of dynamite, and the timer's ticking. I don't give a damn if they're holding a royal flush. When that timer goes off, it's over. Anyways, folks, that's what I've got for you today. That's what I've got for you today. Let's get it done. Let's get the messaging out there. Let's figure out how to explain to people the urgency of the situation, why we have to elect Democrats. No matter what we do, we have to elect Democrats. We've got to get involved locally so that we can, yes, we want to elect the right Democrats. We want the Democrat, even the Democrats that are previously elected that we may not agree with. We want to be able to change their hearts and minds. We want to, and you do that by getting involved locally. Get your voice heard. I love you, folks. I appreciate you being here. I know this was not the most, exciting, rah, pump everybody up, show. But folks, damn it, this information is necessary, and I need you to hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button. Let's get this out to as many people as humanly possible. So, because there are more people out there like us that we haven't reached yet. I'm not talking about the stupids. I'm talking about people like us that can understand this information. Let's get them in here. Let's grow this community. And on that note, enjoy some Texas cities at night.